events and issues shaping our community. This is Comcast Newsmakers.
Comcast Newsmakers is on the road. As you can tell, we're not in the studio this time around. We're on the plaza of the state capitol with Children's Week. All kinds of children's activities taking place behind us. On the set here, Representative David Rivera from District 112. That's part of Dade, part of Broward, and part of Collier County. So you skirt 3 counties in your district. And thanks for joining us.
Please, my pleasure. Thanks
you
for
have
having
a
me.
special distinction this year of being the budget chair. And that's a good thing and a bad thing, right?
Well, I often refer to myself as the budget deficit chair, actually.
Or czar.
Other than in past years, we actually have about a $3 billion budget deficit this year. Actually, last year we had a $6 billion budget deficit. We were able to overcome that through various means, and this year we're looking at also how we're going to overcome our budget deficit.
Yeah, last year I know that people were painfully cutting different programs because the majority of the budget is actually healthcare and education. So this year is even probably more painful.
Well, because we don't have the federal stimulus money that we would have had in previous years. Last year we filled that $6 billion budget deficit with about $3 billion in federal stimulus. This year we're looking forward towards that famous stimulus flame out in future years. So we want to make sure and prepare for that as well. But we need to look at making sure we don't raise taxes, which we are committed to doing, that we don't raise fees and as we have had to do in the past to fill previous budget deficits. We want to make sure we live within our means, just like every family, every individual, every business in Florida has to do, living within a budget. And we're going to produce a responsible, balanced budget that prioritizes the needs of the state of Florida.
When you look at this year's budget, where would the cuts come from? Because I know that they were looking for additional revenue from Compact as well as other sources.
Well, it looks like we're going to be able to get an agreement on the Seminole Indian Gaming Compact, so that'll bring in a little bit of more revenue, but that's only about $150 million in recurring money year past year. When you're looking at a $3 billion deficit, we're not going to build our way out of this deficit with gambling. So we've got to look at other things. We've got to make sure that we don't worsen the situation by impacting businesses negatively by increasing taxes on individuals or taxpayers across the state. But we also have to look at to see what's going to be happening with the any more federal stimulus money. We have to make sure and look at what we're doing with property taxes and make sure that those stay low. We're actually putting a lot of money into making sure that property taxes don't have to go up to pay for education in the future. So we're looking at the whole plethora of issues.
The federal health care issue has been very controversial. Is that impacting the Florida budget at all?
Absolutely, because there are certain requirements that are mandated to be kept up. For example, on Medicaid enrollment, we're looking at perhaps 150,000 new enrollees in Medicaid. And we also know that when the economy goes down, as it has gone down in recent months and recent years, more people enroll in Medicaid. So we're getting less revenue in because of a declining economy. We're getting more people enrolling in Medicaid, and we get caught in the middle here in the state government.
When you take a look at all the kids here during Children's Week, this is quite an event. As budget chair, does this display kind of affect you in any way?
Well, it absolutely reminds me of the importance of education and K-12 education in particular. And right now, at this moment, we are in the process of negotiating with our Senate colleagues to make sure we try to hold education harmless to the greatest extent possible and making sure that per student funding is protected to the greatest extent possible. We want to make sure that just as about half the budget is dedicated towards education, we want to make sure that that half of the budget is held harmless as much as possible. And that's what we're looking at right now, negotiating with the Senate to see what kind of revenues we can pump into education to make sure these kids and kids all around the state are receiving the finest education possible.
Next year, better or worse?
Well, hopefully better.
Okay.
Even last year when we had a $6 billion deficit, we actually increased per student funding. We prioritized education in last year's budget. We will prioritize it again this year as we always have.
You got an awesome responsibility. Thank you very much. Representative David Rivera from District 112 is our guest this hour on Comcast Newsmakers. We're here in Tallahassee, right next to the state capitol, with all kinds of kids having fun behind us. I'm Spiro Kenton. Thanks for joining us.